You can't pray no bad prayer, Carl. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Good to have you, everyone. Thanks for joining. Thanks for joining. Today, we want to talk about or start a series that talks about leadership, being lost in the spotlight. So we are continuing our series on leadership, the invisible weights. And today we want to talk about lost in the spotlight, which is really leadership depression and how it shows up differently in men and women. So, welcome to Leading with Light. And so, as we continue, I always say for those who don't know me, here we go. I always have some slides for you to review after you are finished here. And so we move to that. And for those of you who don't know me, I am Dr. Marcia Thomas. I am a Christian leadership consultant and life coach, 6-time best-selling author and motivational speaker. And I also coach persons who are completing their dissertation, master's, and doctoral thesis. And also, I am a trainer for those who need to know. As I said before, we are talking about leadership, and I want to say, if you can read this, anybody that can read this, give you 2 seconds, see if you can read it. And if you're reading it, welcome, Joy, welcome, Pam, welcome, Mark. Good to have you too, Franklin. Thanks for joining. Always a pleasure having you join. All right, so I am saying, I'm giving you a few minutes to read this, and it says if you can read this, then you have a serious mental issue. All right. And so there are many, what do I mean? There are many leaders who are doing well, doing so well. But inside there, they have a disconnect. They have a gap. And this session today came out of a consultation. There are persons who are saying, I am doing well, I'm achieving, but I have this unhappiness. I am so unhappy and I'm dealing with a lot. I'm dealing with a lot. So I did a series for an organization that asked me to do a 30-minute personal development session. And I spoke about the invisible weights. And after the session, the lady came to me and she spoke with me and she said, everything that you did in your presentation resonated with me in very deep ways. And sometimes you can't speak to people about what you're going through because they don't understand. And so she says, I was able to relate to you in several ways. Number one, you were a leader before and you touch things that we are carrying that nobody seems to be willing to touch or seems to be recognizing. Welcome, Lisa. So good to have you. Good morning to you too. And she explained to me that she said, Miss, you can share it. I told her that I am a coach and sometimes I come on a Tuesday. And she's here too. And she says, you can share it. I am not known by anyone. You can share my story. So she explained to me that she was married and her husband got cancer. Will not say the type of cancer her husband got. She said she had to raise her kids, deal with the cancer, went into a mission, then it came back up. But that is after she had 8 good years in marriage and had her 2 children. Then in the 10th year, there was an issue and they discovered it was cancer. The cancer went into remission and then it came back very aggressively. It spread and her husband died. So she took care of her children. They got into college and years after she remarried. And so she got remarried and 2 years into that marriage, they discovered that this new husband also has cancer. And she's carrying those weights along with her leadership issues and everybody making demands on her. and she being stressed out at her work because not because of her team, but because of her executives and what they're expecting and how hard they are coming down on her. And there is nobody to get support from. So she says, what do I do when I think I am depressed, and I think it's leadership depression because I have to be leading in my home and I have to be leading in my community personal space. And I'm also a Christian and I have duties in my church organization and I really need a break. I'm so tired. But I feel guilty, especially if I give up those roles at church. I just want a break. I need to take some time to regroup. And that is why it matters so much, because you can be gifted, hardworking, and a respected leader and still feel completely lost. It's not always burnout or a breakdown. It can be numbness, it can be disconnect, it can be a persistent sadness that manifests itself as a lack of joy in many persons. And we can't ignore that because there are many things that leaders are going through. So, what is the reality of leadership depression? Persistent inner disconnect, masked by productivity or public success. And by the way, leadership success, by the way, sorry, success that is just based on achievement is really disguised because success doesn't have and can't be seen only as achievement. Thank you for joining, Marie. Good to have you. It's the first time I'm having you, Marie. It's so good. I'm so happy I'm appealing to a wider cross sections of persons. Thank you. So I'm on YouTube too, and I go there and I see everything. Good afternoon, Cyrus. Thank you so much for those kind words. I appreciate that. And so the reality is that there is this persistent disconnect and it is masked by productivity or public success. And then it doesn't always look like sadness also. It also sometimes look like success with no soul. How does success with no soul looks? Constantly achieving, getting another degree, getting another promotion, opening another business, moving along and moving along and moving along and just achieving and achieving and achieving, not spending time with your family, quality time with them, missing important engagements, missing your doctor's appointment, missing all of those things. We call that success with no soul. Drilling down into persons to meet your deadlines and your benchmarks as a team leader, getting those accolades, always getting those accolades as being at the top of your game and meeting your deadlines and improving the organization and bringing in profits, all while forgetting people, the people who are doing the work with you, the people who are getting you those accolades and those success. And so it becomes a challenge. It becomes a serious challenge because we keep missing and we keep misplacing where it is supposed to be. So today we want to pull back that curtain on this thing that few people talk about, leadership depression. We want to pull back that curtain and we want to speak to those high functioning individuals that are silently battling that today. Those are the persons I want to reach out to, whether you're a male or a female, and what you can do to restore the clarity and the faith and the hope again. And so that's what I'm going to dig into this morning as we do the part one. So part one will talk about how it shows up in males, and then next week, Tuesday, we will finish it and talk about how it shows up in females. All right, so 75, I want to give us some global statistics that's important. 72% of leaders report feeling lonely or isolated in their role. And this is from the Harvard Business Review in 2021, just 3 years ago. And 60% of executives report feeling used up at the end of the workday. And the key symptom is emotional exhaustion. We got it from the Gallup group of studies. And then 1 in 3 women in leadership say they feel emotionally drained at work. And I should have added that 2 in 3 men say they feel emotionally drained at work. And it comes out of the McKinsey report, Women in the Workplace, and also out of the Harvard Business Review. So these are important statistics, and we don't want it to we don't want us to miss that, because this would pull the theory together that I call it success without any soul, success without soul. And success without soul is, we find many high achievers find themselves in that position where they overlook people, they overlook the needs, they don't actively listen to their team members, they don't try to understand their background. And many persons says that's not my responsibility. And persons are to separate what happens in their personal life from what is work. But those persons are AI people that are created, or those persons are actually robots, because individuals who are hurt, who have suffered loss, who are grieving, who are going through a divorce, who are having difficulty with children, who have lost their homes, whether to fire or anything, are human beings. And when they come to work, they have to come with all of those things grappling. They are leaders who are taking care of their aged parents. The demands are high, and they are having a difficulty finding persons that they can trust, or to give them that peace of mind, to have them in their homes. There are persons who are worried about their future and so on as leaders, because of the baggages that they carry, the invisible weights that I talk about in the 2 last sessions. And this cannot be separated from their persona, because that is what makes them a whole person. And there are some organizations in which persons are expected to put that aside. I remember that when I lost several members of my family in 1 month, I was told by my superior, the industry individual in my industry, that they have also lost a family member and they had to go on, so they don't see what the big deal is. And that affected me greatly, because you would have expected someone to understand that people grieve differently and people take time to assimilate loss much differently. And that is something that many leaders do not understand when they become very high achievers or at the pinnacle of their career, where they are now respected and awed and lauded for their charisma and for their achievements and the many accolades that they are given and the many circles and connections that they have generated, that they forget who they are. They have exchanged themselves for this type of success that is really a false show, because significance is the truest of success, where persons lives are changed and the outcomes make them better and add value to their life. They create a legacy for you because they become masters of their own destiny, and they carry that voice and that feeling and that impact and influence that you generate as a perfume. And they always refer to you because of the change and the meaningful connection and the transformation that was wrought through your kindness, through treating people the way you would want to be treated, through your achievements and your accolades and your applause. Because if you do not touch lives, then you are not serving. You are delivering, and service is much different. All of us who have a purpose, we are called to serve in the capacity that we are, with our unique gifts and talents. Anybody can deliver, anybody can be good at their role, anybody can carry out their responsibility to the T, but not everybody understand what their purpose is and can integrate that into service. Because when we are true leaders, we actually serve others, and we make them, and I repeat that every time I have this, become masters of their own destiny. We don't make them mimic us, and we don't allow them to do what we want them to do, as is the greatest adage out there about leadership, getting people to do what you want them to do. That's not leadership. And that is a miss that we have. And those who succumb to these types of elevations and pillars of leadership find that they're in leadership theory and not leadership revelation. as I have highlighted in my book, A Leader Like You. So the theory is much different than the revelation because leadership and humans are static, are dynamic, they are not static. And so people feel and people change and people hurt and people are loyal and people are committed depending on their core values, depending on the environment and circumstances and how much is vested in it. And so motivation many times, as I said before, is very much misunderstood because some people feel that the greatest motivation is to pay them well. And some persons don't care about the pay. They really care about how you make them feel and how valued and appreciated they are. While there are others that need or want to be in charge and have authority, and they will do it without the money because of how it makes them feel and what are the gaps that they have in themselves. So the gaps and the fears create the type of motivation and what motivates them. There are so many persons who are motivated by trying to prove others who they value and believe that they don't value, but they value so much because they want to prove that what they said about them was wrong. And they spend their whole life, even when the person dies, they tell the story over and over that Mr. Mac told me that I would never amount to nothing. Mr. Mac should see me now. And so those things create issues in people and can make you become depressed because some persons get really depressed and their success means nothing to them because Mr. Mac did not live to see them defy what he actually said. And that makes them feel that what they have achieved is nothing, is not of value because they really didn't do it for themselves. Success with no soul. They did it to prove a point. And so how does leadership depression plays out? There is the isolation that is at the top, the fear of failure, the constant pressure to perform, the decision fatigue and emotional labor, and the lack of support systems or trusted peer groups. Because when leaders become very vulnerable because they fear failure or they have the constant pressure to perform, to meet the benchmarks, to get to their deadlines out there, to get to their achievement points, to make sure that the profits are maintained and kept, then there is so many issues because there is this the fatigue that comes from making so many different decisions with so many different persons and different personalities and holding it all together. And then there is how you are affected emotionally when you are betrayed, when persons do not value what you're doing, when persons second guess you because they want their agenda to be sorted out, when you feel threatened or challenged. And then there is this issue where you can't speak this way to even persons who are leaders themselves or their peers because you are seen as being weak and an underachiever. You're seen as being a complainer or a griper. And these things are real. And so that is how leadership depression can begin to take root. Ah, Nicole, I see your point. Yes, no matter how much you pay people, eventually people will start to feel detached if they are constantly being demoralized or and there are some persons too that are very or feel that they are better off than some persons in organization, and that demoralization is very, very real. Condescension is also very real. And also the informal structure where persons go into clans and groups. So no matter how well they're doing, if they decide that they don't want you and they get the right group or clan to join with them, then you are frustrated out. And so there are many ways that persons are being constantly demoralized. Thank you so much for that point, Nicole. And then we want to talk about why it is missed. Why do we miss leadership depression? One of the greatest things is that leaders keep going. High functioning or high achievers, they keep going because they are expected to handle everything and they feel that they should be handling everything. And so even when they feel lost, they keep going. They blindly go ahead and they make decisions. And we're going to show you how that shows up and how detrimental it is. And then there is depression that is masked as discipline. So you bear it and bite your tongue. And that makes you be a disciplined leader. Yeah, so you're a disciplined leader. because here you are showing up, doing what is required of you, making sure that you supervise, making sure that you advise your team, making sure that you monitor them, making sure that you encourage them, making sure that you support them. But who supports you? Who makes sure that you are okay? And who makes sure that you are getting your soul nurtured and that you are actually getting the support that you need? Who is making sure of that? Who motivates the motivator? And so there is this vulnerability that is constantly hidden behind these smiles, the tired sighs, the frustration and the disappointments, and also the helplessness. You see, leadership depression can become very heavy when persons feel helpless. They are not able to change the circumstances under which they operate. They can't reverse the cancer. They can't recall a divorce where somebody has moved on already. They can't bring back a family member that they have lost to life. And so there is this helplessness where they wish they could turn back the hands of time. Many leaders go through that. And this vulnerability has to be masked, has to be hidden. They have to be keeping it under lock and key because weakness in certain leadership spaces is vulnerability, in certain leadership spaces is seen as weakness. You are seen as a whimper. Get over it and get on with it. And so a lot of persons don't understand, especially after you get the structural or organizational time off, and you're expected that this should have been how it should be working out itself. And so let us see what happens. Both genders have, when they are in leadership depression, have this disconnection from their own success. And so they are very successful, but they still feel lost. The two of them, both males and female leaders or individuals in general, because remember that we say leaders are in their homes. We're talking about leadership and life, leaders in home, personal and career, and also in community, leaders as leaders of their homes, talking about how we lead ourselves, and also leaders in communities and in organizations. So that's a sum total of who you are. Your roles and responsibilities is a sum total of what you carry. And when you carry them well, and including the invisible weights that you carry, then and you are still able to transform and change people's lives, then you are significant. And that significance augurs and points to leadership. That's the end result, success. So significance done properly, changing lives, changing outcomes, teaching people to become masters of their own destiny is real and true success because it is multiplicated in others. Good morning, LinkedIn user. I'm thinking that maybe Alison, she shows up as a LinkedIn user. Let me hope that is it. All right, then there is this persistent imposter syndrome. You feel that you're not good enough, you're not in the right place, and you're not doing what you're required to do. All right. And then there is emptiness and isolation. Despite your external achievement, you still feel lost. You still feel alone. And there are so many persons around you, and there are so many persons giving you applause and validating your achievement externally. And there are so many trophies on your desk, and so many in your study, and so many on your wall. But somewhere along the line, they are not meaning anything to you. And then there is this chronic fatigue or numbness, which plays out as exhaustion mentally. But the greatest one that we keep missing is the emotional exhaustion that drives you inward and downward. It does not lift you up. And that is the one I am hammering in detail today, because that is what I have been asked to do. All right, so in the males, let's look how it looks to everyone in the male. Thank you. 3 more have joined us. Thank you so much. The males really admit that they are emotionally fatigued, and many times they suppress more times than none. They suppress their emotional pain because they're expected to be strong and showing up. If you give up, what's happening? But there, and so let us explain. If a woman, for example, loses her job and it takes her a long time to get a job, there is a frustration, but there is an understanding. If it happens to a male, many times persons begin to say you're not looking hard enough. You have to get up and get out there. You have to make sure. And this woman that has lost her job has the same qualification as this man who has lost his job. And the market is saturated, or there is a scarcity of opportunities, but he is expected to make blood out of stone. And the woman is expected to do her best, and gradually you will come into something. So the encouragement to both is very different. The expectations on both sides are very different. And the support is also very different given to males and females who find themselves in the same position. And so you will find that the male now really admits that they are emotionally fatigued. They suppress their pain. And how is it channeled? They channel it into detachment. They become cynics, or they are become irritable, or they find themselves they are overworking themselves in the sense that they are absent from the groups that they are supposed to be in, and so they appear this quite detached when it's really a struggle that they are going through, the struggle that we call disconnection from the soul or from your reality, or the helplessness that they feel because of their circumstances and how they are navigating the invisible weights that they are carrying. And so this emotional isolation means that it shows up as withdrawal. Some move into risky behavior, so they do things that they never used to do, and they may just max out their card to take some delights that they never usually take upon themselves, or they become withdrawn. And so, because they are socially conditioned not to talk about their feelings, these are the ways that it plays out in the home, mostly in their personal changes that they make in their life, and in the workplace and their social endeavors. They tend to either become withdrawn, or they become very risky. They start dressing differently, or they are very irritable. And also in the home, they are irritable, and the risky behavior is also demonstrated in the home. So sometimes they are not withdrawn in their personal space. But of course, as I say to you, it is just a face that they are carrying. Behind that smile, there is the sigh, there is the feeling that they have lost their worth, there is the helplessness, there is the sadness that is not coming to the surface because they are socially conditioned not to show certain feelings and not to talk about certain feelings. And it behoves a good team member or colleague, somebody that is experienced, a good coach or mentor, to dig deep into that and to pull it out. And so sometimes in this case, welcome, Dr. Leslie. In this case, it's not boredom. The risk is due to frustration and the feeling of helplessness. Because, as I said before you joined us, they are unable to change the circumstances that brought them to this point. And then the pressure to win is another cause of leadership depression. So many male leaders tie their achievement, their identity to their achievement, to the authority that they have, to the power, and also to their financial success. When they are not able to pull it all together, meaning that they find that they may have not had a very good year, and so the achievement indicator went down. It affected their influence and impact because persons are now seeing them for who they are, humans. The charisma is not so much pushing itself now, and it has, or if they have taken a financial loss which they had associated with as part of their identity marker, then you will find that it shows up as I have to be doing more. I have to get it back up to that standard. Not because they are suffering so much or it has changed how they are living, their conditions, but they have this pressure that if I slow down, I am losing value. If my finances go down, I am losing my clout and my influence, my authority, and my power. If all of these things, any of these things go down at any point, then it reflects on who I am. And that's not necessarily so, because you must focus on not what you carry in relation to those validations that are changeable, temporary, transitional, but the validation that is constant about who you are, your gifts, your unique talent, your resilience, how you navigate loss, how you make changes, how you embrace those changes, how you adapt, and how you flex, and what is your mindset that is enduring, because life happens and you live life as it is and not necessarily how you want life to be. And the changes that you make in life grooms you and prepare you, and also make you understand and test yourself to see what you can produce and who you really are. In Jamaica, we have a proverb that says, when you step on the ant, and I'm speaking it in English because we say it in our dialect, when you mash ants, you sing goat. But what it really means is that it is when you're under the stress or the strain, or when somebody's at their wits end, or when somebody's back is against the wall, they reveal who they truly are. Their character is revealed at that time. And so you see them showing up as withdrawal, or you find them stepping away from where they usually function naturally, and they move a little into the shadows until they recover. Let's look at how they see vulnerability. These male leaders rarely seek help until there is a breakdown or crisis hits. And sometimes, and I'm speaking very gentle here, because there are persons in the audience and there are persons who are listening and who will be listening to the replay who have suffered from this type of hiding of the vulnerability, where persons don't show the males in their homes don't show their feelings, their hurts, and their pains, and commit suicide. And I'm speaking so mildly with that, because they become overwhelmed. And so when they overwork, there is nothing to overwork. There is no work left. For example, somebody might lose their position in their company and has done it for so many years that they are not prepared to take all of their expertise and their knowledge into something that is a brilliant idea for them, or into another organization, because this is where they were planted and placed. This is where they were created to be in their mind. And with that fixed mindset, they are no longer able to push themselves into the work, because there is no work, and they are not looking that they are valuable and that they have gotten enough expertise to push them in so many directions that will make them better off. So they are stuck where they are. And some persons resort to using substance to get them through the demotion or the layoff, or the fact that they have to be downsized, and some of them are not able to bear that. So they turn to substance abuse. Those who are not able to manage at that level with the overwork, those who some accept what they cannot change, but the depression goes so deep, the change gets so fortified in their spirit that they feel so helpless that they break the contract that they have with life and the universe, and they voluntarily move on to what they think in their mind is a better place. And that leaves a lot of hurt behind. And then there is also some persons who become very stoic, and so you're not able to reach them in any way, and they are going through the motions, and they live because they have no other way out, and they lack the courage to make the changes that need to be made, and they need that support and they need that help. Leadership depression. And there are some now who feel hollow. The success don't feel as great as it should be. And so there is this numbness and this exhaustion, lack of fulfillment that they feel. So we talk about those who have what we call this numbness or lack of fulfillment. And you hear them say, I've reached the top. Why do I feel so empty? Why do I still feel so empty? And so it shows up now as, and we're moving along with, if we talk about the pressure to all of those push you to what I call success without any soul. And so they show up. Bridget, thank you for joining. They show up as, it shows up as hollow success. This lack of fulfillment or numbness shows up as hollow success, and it doesn't carry any meaning. And as I said before, you'll find that they have a lot of trophies on their tables, a lot of plaques, a lot of validation, and it's on their wall and in their study and so on, and it means nothing to them. Disconnected from meaning. It doesn't carry the meaning because there is this misalignment. It's not aligning. And for some reason, there are persons around me and they are cheering me on, and it doesn't mean as much as it should. Why? Why have I reached the top and I feel so empty? As I said, yes, they have a diminished self-worth, but it comes from not from a lack of achievement, but from invisible weights that they are carrying so long without the breaks that they are required to take. It comes from the lack of affirmation. It comes from trying to prove themselves to persons who really, it doesn't matter. So they are persistently trying to attract those persons and get the validation, the appreciation, and the upliftment in value from persons who are saying to them, showing them by their actions that it doesn't matter. And many times it's persons in your family that take you for granted because you're always there, you're always showing up, and you're always enabling them and not allowing them to become masters of their own destiny, to make choices on their own, to solve their problems and so on. So the things that they can do, we push them into what is called an entitlement mentality, because we show up even when we can't. We sacrifice ourselves, and in exchange, they do not learn to make sacrifices for people, to appreciate people, and to validate persons for how their lives are being changed and the sacrifices you're making, because we teach them, especially our children, to expect it, because there is something in our minds that say we don't want them to suffer the way we are suffering, which diminishes and carries a lot of disrespect in my mind for how far you have come and why you are capable to guide them into the next stages of their lives. And why is it so much? Why are you so ashamed of what you have learned and what have carried you forward to the success that you are, and give you the significance that you have? And you now feel that you are not carrying enough value to pass on to your children, and you are not teaching them how to become resilient. So these are the children who take over in society. They do not make right decisions. They get irritable a lot. They feel entitled, and they get very angry when they are told no, because who told them no? So we, of course, become incubators for bullies at different levels and in different forms in society. And we pat ourselves that we may have done a good job if persons become expert bullies, where they get where they want, what they want, and are able to trample on people to get to the top. Or we get very disappointed when our children are not up to the game because they were not the ones who were the bullied. They are the ones that were being bullied, and they become complainers, and they have developed a victim mentality because of our leadership. And they are the ones who most likely, these two types of leaders, because and I'm pulling into that because I'm looking at how we bullied leaders who have been bullied, or who we have created the incubator to become bullies as leaders, that we now call great achievers and exceptional leaders and transformational and so on. We want to look what that means, what they do to get to that point, and those who are truly leading from the place of who they are and how they navigate these things, because leadership depression plays out in many different ways in organization and has a lot to do with the base, the foundation that was created in the home, and how we pull them and how we made them socialize with others, and how we differentiated in our homes, and how we treated one child versus the other, and how we necessitated who they are at this point. And who they are is not the external, it's not the graduate from the college or so on. Who people are is the sum total of their character. Who they are when persons are seen, and the consistency when they are not being seen, the integrity, the honesty, the core values. That is what makes up someone. Because when you lose the things, the certificate, when you lose the accolade, when you lose the applause, and when you lose the job and so on, what do you have left? So we are moving away from that. When you lose the status, when you lose your name, because you might have been married, you change your name because you get divorced. Who are you? And so this lack of fulfillment comes from so many things, but there is the hollow success, and you feel disconnected from other things. And then we want to talk about now how they look at confidence, how you heal with confidence. So a lot of them appear outwardly strong, but they are struggling inside. They feel inadequate, they feel lost, and many times they feel helpless. And males and females feel this, but males need to understand that when you're struggling, it's not a weakness, and recognizing and admitting and owning your struggle is not a weakness. It's really a sign of strength. And I want you to ask yourself, if you weren't trying to prove anything to anyone, what kind of leader or person you would be. That's a question I want all of us to ask. I ask myself many times, if I wasn't trying to prove anything to anyone, what kind of leader or person would I be? And that is something that's very, very important. And as I say, we're looking at the male this week, and next week we want to look at the female. So as I am wrapping up, I want to look at a compass reset. I want to push a compass reset out here for the males. And for the compass reset, I want you to ask yourself some important questions. Who am I outside of my role? What did I enjoy before leadership became my identity? Where is my current definition of success? This misaligned with my soul. Who do I believe I need to be to feel safe in leadership? I want to repeat the questions. Just for those who feel that they're listening, they might not do the replay, and they want to write it down. Who am I outside of my role? What did I enjoy before leadership became my identity? Where is my current definition of success misaligned with my soul? And who do I believe I need to be to feel safe in leadership, whether it is in your home or in your organization or in your community? You have a point there, Leslie. Bullies raise bullies. And one of the things that they don't understand about bullies is that those who are being bullied become bullies. Bullies raise bullies. So they play it out when they're in their own space and how they can sort it out. All right. So we want to now look at your key takeaways at this point. Leadership is what we do, not who we are. And your identity is not rooted in your achievement. Coaches and therapists or mentors Reaching out to these persons doesn't mean that it's a sign of weakness. They are God's provision to pull you back when you're fumbling in the dark, to pull you back into the light. And true leadership begins the moment you stop performing and start listening to the voice within. I want to repeat that. True leadership begins the moment you stop performing and start listening to the voice within. I don't know who agrees with this point here, because this is a point I want us to remember. True leadership begins the moment you stop performing and start listening to the voice within. Your core values, your unique gifts, your soul, your talents, what you love to do, and what you do well. The moment you start listening to that, then you are well on your way. And I want to post that so that it sticks, this point sticks as I bring down the curtains on this session. I just hope that we benefited from this session and that we pass it on to persons who really need it. Now, the question is, do you think that people who commit fraud are raised by people who committed fraud? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. But it can be that persons who were defrauded actually believe in an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. And so the moment they come into themselves, they are saying, yeah, man, I was defrauded and now I have an opportunity to give it back. Just a pity that I'm not giving it back to the person who defrauded me. So some persons carry that hate and that grief. And when they get an opportunity, they give it to someone else. That's where it's at. But I don't think that persons who commit fraud are necessarily raised by people who commit fraud, because there is the issue of greed. There are some persons who are never content with what they have. And it can also be that they feel that they fear poverty in such a way that they are defrauding people to get ahead. There are some persons who feel that as I make that point, there are some persons who God has blessed. They grew up very poor. God blesses them, but the poverty stay in them. So they carry it along. And they fear it so much that they do everything not to go back to it, even when they don't have to. Because even when they will never get back to the state that they were before. And some of these persons, how should I put it now, leave family members behind, refuse to help. So it's as if they throw a stone behind them when they come out of it, and they don't see the need. They don't even understand that they are blessed to pull the others up. And I can give many stories like that. So I don't agree with that. I don't think so. I don't think that people who commit fraud are raised by persons who committed fraud. Neither do I feel that persons who are liars were grown by persons who told them a lot of lies. There are some honest, truthful, authentic parents out there who did their very best, but children still resent simply because they found that lies could carry them to a point, give them a certain feel, they get a certain high from telling stories and so on. So it plays out in different ways. We maybe would want to look at that in a session. So now let's talk about the leadership challenge I want you to have today. And I'm speaking to those who are high functioning but feel lost, who are achieving a lot but still feel empty. Of course, I'm speaking to those who are gifted and who are moving forward, but they're grappling with certain things inside that they are not sharing with others, just like that lady who explained that she was doing well, she's moving along, and everybody thinks that she has it together. The one who asked me to look at it today, and who is listening, thank you so much for giving me this topic and for allowing me to share with you. Next week, I will be looking at the female side of it. I just needed to look at the male first. And so next week, in the next session, we will look at how it shows up in the females and how we can all bring it together. So for the male who have these issues and who are conditioned not to show their feelings, who feel pressured to perform, and who is really tired and need a break, those who are suffering from decision fatigue and emotional distress and have to be showing up, overworking themselves, getting irritable, maybe looking at substance abuse, even those who, as leaders, who are now so feeling so helpless that they are considering suicide. I'm pulling out to you and I'm saying take the actions that are necessary. Reach out to someone, a coach, a mentor, your pastor, a trusted friend. Bare your soul. You will feel lighter. Purpose is revealed through movement, that type of strategic action to save yourself. And it is a self care moment also. And you want to lead through service. Your impact starts with giving. So do this, something that you love. Serve from what was your hobby. What is it that you love to do? Why are you not doing it? And you want to get to your next step also. If you feel that you want to continue this conversation, then you can send me a DM and you can also complete your purpose alignment audit. The link is on my profile. Or you can decide to join this monthly purpose accelerator just to talk with other persons in the that are in the same category. It's a special for July and it's going to be out there. I also want you to look at purchasing my book. I am preparing for the pre-order and I'll give you the day for the launch. It's called My Faith Looks Up. It's rekindling faith, hope, and purpose as a leader. And it's on the publishing rack. It's coming out very, very soon. And it deals with some of what is being talked about here. It talks about those whose faith is at the brink, losing it, and so on. And it brings together stories of persons who need to pull it in. So I'm advertising also, and I want us to look at pre-ordering. I also want us to look at getting it when the link gets up, when it is posted, and be served. It's a very small book. It's a devotional, nice little devotional, but from cursory reviews, those that are being done now for those who are on my editing team, which is also in the book, it's going to be a bestseller. So we want you to start considering supporting My Faith Looks Up, purchasing that book. All right, thank you. And may your Tuesday be peaceful, intentional, and purpose-filled. Have a great rest of the week. And I want to say hello, Charito, and thank you for joining. Next week, we want to look at leadership depression, the spotlight, leading in this, being missing or hidden in the spotlight. And we want to look at how it shows up in females. Because this morning, I just wanted to focus on the males and start with that. And I also want to thank again the person who instigated this topic and who asked me to deal with this topic, who is now saying to me, it has helped me so much. And my brother is here and he's saying that he will speak with you after. Thank you so much. I focus on female leaders, as you know, but should males want to just talk, I can refer you to somebody at your level, or I can also assist you if you decide or want me to. But my specialty is the female leaders who want to balance their faith, their career, and their life and move it to. No problem, Charito. Next week, you can be early. We start at 8 for the time being because of my responsibilities at a different time. We used to start a little earlier, but now I can do at 8. And it's good to have you, and you can look at the replay. For those who are going to be looking at the replay, good for you. So remember that true leadership begins the moment you stop performing and start listening to the voice within. Blessings, everyone. Have a great day and rest of the week. And you can always follow me, see this on YouTube. Bye, everyone. Of course, I want to thank you, all the LinkedIn users that I can't see your name. I want to thank you, Nick, for taking the time, Leslie, Dr. Leslie Flowers, Lisa. I want to thank you, Cyrus. I want to thank you, Franklin. I also want to thank you, Alison. And I want to thank you, Simone, and all the others who have joined. Thank you so much.